All right, right off the bat, if I'm gonna sound a little bit weird because your boy's sick. Your boy's sick, so it is what it is. We're gonna sound a little bit weird, a little bit gritty, but it's okay. It doesn't really matter. About the Eternals, though, enough about me. About the Eternals, it's a good movie. It feels very different from other Marvel movies. I think it's a lot grittier, and I think that's where the DC comparisons come from, because a lot of people were comparing this to DC movies, and it feels like a DC movie. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Even on the trailers, I was like, yo, this feels like a DC movie because of the added grit that the DCU is unfortunately known for, although maybe that was the point that they went for, but that's kind of what it's known for. But at its core, it's still a Marvel movie though, and you can expect the same degree of action, but it does focus on the story a lot more than some other Marvel movies, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's kind of subjective. I personally think it's a good thing because I thought the story was interesting, but it's not perfect. I'll get into it a little later, but the overarching story is very interesting because I'm interested in the cosmic side of the MCU, because I've been wanting to learn more about it ever since Guardians, and to me it was interesting. But again, I'll get into that a little later. The movie is like huge in scope because it focuses on the cosmic side, and they don't really beat around the bush with it. Like, they show you Celestials doing some crazy ass shit, like creating universes. Like, this is not spoilers, by the way, but they show you Celestials doing crazy shit, and like, it's not like you just see Celestials but then you don't see them compared to humans. Like, you see the giant size differences, and it's like mind-blowing at some points. And some of the shots in this movie are incredible. Like, I couldn't even believe the shit I was seeing. And I'm not gonna get into it too hard because that would be spoilers, but they did a good job of just showing scale. And if anything, this gets me hyped for eventually Galactus, because probably won't be clouds this time around, but it just gets me hyped for whatever's next. The Celestials were cool. I'm just so hyped for whatever's next. While it isn't the best, like I said, I am happy that they are trying different things, because they are trying different things. And even with the shots that they were doing in this movie, they're trying different things. It's a lot more cinematic than some other MCU movies. It really wants you to look at it and be like, wow, that's an impressive shot. Which a lot of other MCU movies, they don't really care for that. They really try to wow you with like action and stuff. But this movie really tries to wow you with its cinematography, which is kind of it works sometimes. Sometimes it's like useless, but it works sometimes. And again, I'm just happy that they're trying different things. That's what I'm really, really happy about, because I'm personally not sick of superhero movies by any means, but I know some people are. The superhero fatigue thing is a real thing to some people, and I feel like Eternals, although it isn't the best example of a movie that breaks that monotony, it still attempts to break that monotony, and of that alone, I think it merits some kind of praise, just because it tries to be different than everything else in the same universe, right? It still tries to tell its own story in its own way, rather than following the same formula that MCU movies kind of have. Which, again, I love MCU movies. I'm not the type of person to say like, oh my god, another superhero movie. I don't care. I love superheroes. I live for this shit. But it's cool to at least get something different sometimes. The fact that they go deeper into the cosmic side of the MCU, like I said earlier, is really cool. Unfortunately, the main characters of the movie, the Eternals themselves, they're really not that interesting, honestly. Like, the most meh thing about the entire cosmic side of this movie, I think, are the Eternals. Not all of them, but most of the Eternals are just kind of bland, in my opinion. I might be wrong about that, but to me, they just felt kind of bland, especially Ikaris and Sersi. I'm not gonna get too deep into their characters because I think that would be spoilers, but them two, which are likely the top two, are the most boring. And I actually liked Sersi's character, so it kind of sucks that I feel that way, but I'm just calling it how it is. Their characters were a little boring. All the other Eternals, or most of the other Eternals, were more interesting. Even if they weren't interesting necessarily, they had something around them that made them interesting. And if not, well, they themselves were interesting. Ikaris and Sersi didn't have any of that. The most interesting part about Sersi is a character that's related to her. And I'm not going to say who, and that would be spoilers. But if you saw the movie, I think you know what I mean. It just sucks that the main characters of this movie, which are going to be the recurring characters, right? It's all good that like you see the cosmic side of the MCU, blah, blah. the main characters introduced in this movie, the Eternals, are the ones you're going to keep seeing through the MCU movies. So hopefully they're able to kind of like act more. They're able to be more free with the way that they act, with what they do. Because they were just delivered very blandly. Especially Ikaris. He's just boring the entire movie. And he's supposed to be like the Superman of the team. Or he's supposed to be like the big boss of the team. But he's just boring. And it sucks because there are some portions of the movie where they kind of allow him to be a little more fun, but like then he goes back to being boring, and it sucks because I feel like the character was told to be bland, and this feels like a Brie Larson Captain Marvel situation where the character itself might be a little bland. I don't know much about Ikaris in the comics, right? But Captain Marvel herself in the comics is a little bland, so I feel like Brie Larson was told to be bland. I don't know if that's what happened with Ikaris, where Ikaris is maybe a character that's a little bland, and the actor was just told, okay, well, you know, play him a little subdued, play him a little like calmly, not much emotion. I don't know, but it kind of sucks that that's how it was delivered, because I feel like it was a missed opportunity. However, the other Eternals kind of make up for that. My favorites being Makkari and Festus. They were actually cool, and it's fucked up because Festus is cool. He's funny. He's like low-key, like kind of the comic relief of the Eternals. I'm always partial to those characters, so that's obvious that I was gonna like him. Makkari is mute. She is one of the most expressive Eternals with barely any scenes in the entire movie, and she is easily one of the coolest characters in this entire movie, which I don't blame the actor for Ikaris's blandness or Cersei's blandness. I just don't understand how a mute character can be one of the most expressive characters in this movie. And that fact alone makes me think that it wasn't necessarily the actor's faults. But I'm not going to get too much into it. The movie in general is good. Flawless? Absolutely not. But good still. I would give it a B. I think it's a good breath of fresh air in the MCU. All this hate that the movie's getting is ridiculous and unwarranted. It doesn't make sense. This is a good movie. Not the best the MCU has to offer, but still very, very much worth your time.